Welcome to the Wingman Show. My name is Drew Brown, and my wingman, my man, the number one guy I know, Dr. Paul Thompson. What's up, brother? Welcome to the Wingman Show, where we're floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you two badass jet pilots, rumble. Welcome to the Wingman Show. My name is Commander Drew Brown. My friend, my wingman, my main man is Dr. Paul Thompson. How are you, Brother Paul?
Good to see you, Commander Drew. I'm doing just fine. Great to see you today. I like your background. I like the sunrise coming up. I miss seeing that in the Pacific in your early morning.
You know, God paints those pictures every day, and they're always different. That sun and the clouds rising is beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Okay, Dr. Paul, let's start this puppy off with the quote of the day. Don't be afraid to take time to learn. That's by Vera Wang. Don't be afraid to take time to learn. It takes time to learn, Dr. Paul. Nothing comes easy. Most things that are good take time and take hard work, and time is our most precious, precious commodity, Paul.
Yeah, I agree with Commander Drew. It is our most precious commodity, and you got to take the time. Yesterday, I decided to take some time and learn something about design and computers that I've been putting off. And I dedicated a solid 2 hours to it, and I made some progress. The problem I have sometimes is so many things on my mind that I only want to dedicate like 5 seconds to something. You can't do anything in 5 seconds. You got to slow down. Sometimes to speed up, you got to slow down. And I'm trying to make myself more patient.
Well, you know, you get what you give. You give a little time, you get little in return. You know, I take my time. I'm doing Duolingo, and I'm doing Hebrew and Spanish, and I am learning, and I'm doing that for my cognitive, my brain, so I can start thinking good and keep this brain as I get a little bit more time on planet. Well, the name of the show this week is how they wouldn't give Commander Drew a TSA Pre-Check, even with a top secret clearance. Dr. Paul, in my squadron, VA 35, the Black Panthers, my A6 squadron, I was given the job of communications officer. And with that job, you get a super top secret clearance. You get a really top secret clearance because you're getting all the comm from the main Navy given to your squadron. So I had a super top secret clearance. Well, I went to go get a TSA pre-check. And because I have American Express, they'll pay for it. I think it's $75 or something. Anyway, I filled out all the paperwork, I did everything, and I went to my interview. And they told me I could not get it because when I was 16, I was arrested for a hash pipe, which they called back then a narcotic implement. I was arrested for a hash pipe. The case never, it was expunged. I never was found guilty, none of that. And the Navy saw fit to give me a super top secret clearance, but they wouldn't. What do you think about that, Paul?
You know, I can see how that could happen because, believe it or not, a good friend of mine from college a couple of years ago, he told me something. He entered the Air Force in the 70s, and I guess he got some kind of a parking violation in Arizona in the mid 70s. You know, he worked for the federal government. He was prohibited from getting some kind of clearance from the FAA not long before he retired, 30 years, 35, 40, almost 50 years later, because this thing was still on his record when he was like a, 22-year-old young man. Now he's like, that time he was like in the 60s and it was still there. So yeah, I believe you.
And Paul, I need to shout this out. You need to really try to stay out of trouble. You really need to stay away from the law because it will catch up to you. It's like taking these pictures in social media with drinks in your hand. You never know. You might run for president one day. Those things will stop you. I will tell you that. So let me continue the story. I finally did get my TSA pre-check, and now I'm going for global entry. Katrina and I, we travel, we take cruises. And the last time I was at the airport with this TSA Pre-Check, boom, right in. It was amazing. Instead of waiting 45 minutes, I think I waited 2.5 minutes. It was incredible. And now I want global entry. Do you have global entry, Paul?
I do. I've had global entry for quite a while. The big thing about the global entry and the TSA pre-check, it's a time thing. It cuts out on time and cuts long lines. I haven't had one. Yeah, the TSA the down they go together, but the global entry, I've had probably about 15 years, well worth it. And it's for those who don't know, it's if you're coming from out of the country, outside of the United States, back into the United States, you need the global entry, and it's good anywhere. Basically, you run your passport through a machine. It looks who you are. It looks at you. Maybe you have to put your fingerprints up there, matches the fingerprints. Boom, you get a paper slip. You walk to some special front of the line.
Paul, if you've ever come back into the country and you see those long, long lines at custom, you will see that there's a little line with nobody in it for global entry. So we're
Right.
trying to get global entry. Well, let's do some good news. Last week, believe it or not, we had a guy on the frequent flow line from Cleveland. And if you remember, he lost his job after 7 years. He was a federal worker and he lost his job because of these big cutbacks. Well, I just got a note from him, and guess what? He got his job back. Here's the question, Paul, that I want to talk to you about. When people get their jobs back and they're not really feeling good about their employers, are they giving their 100%? Is he going back to work and giving it his all anymore, do you think?
He might, but whether he does or not, I bet he's looking over his shoulder, both shoulders now. So maybe he doesn't give 100% because now people are more paranoid. So I'm going to say the answer is probably not so much.
And don't you think he's now looking for something else to do? So he's now spending time trying to find something else to do because he really, if they could fire him just like that, that means he doesn't have much stability there.
Yeah, I agree. I would say if he's smart, he's looking for something else.
Very good. How about this good news? A 42-year-old woman with a black belt. She sends a would-be robber packing wearing her new heels. She's a karate expert, Mari Karen. Can you believe that? Somebody tried to, and we have video of it actually, and I hope Brandon's able to put it in. But somebody tried to rob this little convenience store and she attacked him and he ran out. What do you think, Paul? Because that's not really smart to do and you just don't know. I think she was lucky. But how about her? And she got commendations too.
Yeah, I saw the picture. I saw the video. It's a quick video. Yeah, you in this life, you never know who you're dealing with.
Paul, let me ask you this. Has something like this ever happened to you?
Yeah, a guy tried to mug me in Chicago some time ago. Uh,
Really?
yeah, yeah, at night on Michigan Avenue in front of a Walgreens, and it was out of the clear blue, attacked me from the back, shoving me towards a plate glass window, actually, of the Walgreens. I can still see the neon lights, WALGRE. Anyway, before my face hit the glass, I was resisting. I kind of closed my eyes to not get the impact. And there was like a rustling. I didn't see anything. And when I opened my eyes up, I was on top of him. I had him in kind of in a reverse hammerlock. He was bent over 90 degrees. He was asking me not to hurt him. He was kind of pleading. And he told me his life story. I don't even know what's going on at this point. But the point is that I'm not quite sure what I did, but I did it with literally with my eyes closed.
Paul, hold on now. You have been practicing martial arts for many years. And this woman, she's been doing it for 20 years. Don't you think that that has a lot to do with the way you reacted?
Absolutely, absolutely. It's just reps. It's muscle memory because I have no recollection on what I did. I remember the beginning. I remember the end. I do not remember the middle, and I've thought about it for about 15 years. So that was just from muscle memory and practice. The body knew what to do, even though the brain did.
Remember, I told you I got mugged in Barcelona. Somebody tried to rip my chain off my neck. They didn't get it. Well, I don't run anymore. I just don't run anymore. But my wife told me I ran after him.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's again muscle memory. Your instincts did that. Now maybe you're sore afterwards. I don't know. Your body will talk to you if you exceed a limit. But yeah, sometimes we just do these things.
Wow, amazing. All right, Paul, let's talk about the fastest growing and dying jobs here in America right now. Um, we have jobs, you know, times are changing. Times are changing, and that means careers are changing. So we're going to give you a couple of new jobs that are really starting to come up. And one of them, and I will tell you this, STEM is important: science, technology, engineering, and math. If you are looking for something to do, try to go the STEM way. Well, the number one job, artificial intelligence engineer. They make about $105,000 a year. The best place to go is San Francisco, New York, or Boston. But AI, that's a big one, Paul, because it is going to take over.
Yeah, AI is taking over. I use it every day in different things. There's one I pay for. There's a bunch of them are free. The free versions of everything are really good. I don't use them as a substitute brain, but to kind of organize my thoughts and save a lot of time.
Well, it is the way of the future, I'll tell you that. Another job, physical therapist. They make about $97,000 a year on the average, and they help people after an accident or after an operation. When I got my neck operation, I went to a physical therapist, and they helped me out a lot. Physical therapy, what do you think?
Yeah, that because people are still humans. We're not robots yet. We're still humans. Everybody's kind of getting older, and stuff doesn't work quite as well when you get older as opposed to being young. So yeah, there'll always be physical therapy and doctors needed to treat people, especially if they get if they start running down the street in Barcelona, Spain, and they're not used to it.
That's true, Paul. All right, here's another one, a travel advisor. And when I go on Virgin Voyage cruises now, I have this special guy that I call. He works doesn't work exactly for Virgin Voyage, but he's a representative, and he's my now travel advisor. And every dollar that I spend, he gets 15%. So they make about 50, 60,000 a year. What do you think about travel advisor?
I was going to ask you about that. You use one. I'm interested in that. I mean, do you find that better than just surfing the web and doing things that way?
For sure, because you get that personal interaction and you can actually tell them what you want, and that's their job to make it good. And if they make your vacation good or your trip good, you'll go back to them. And if they're real good, they have a customer for life, kind of.
Oh, okay, cool.
All right, another one, event coordinator. And that's when you set up parties. People who like to party, well, these parties and these events, they have to be set up. These conferences that all has to be set up, and they make about 55, 60,000, which is not a lot of money right now, actually. What do you think?
And that's an event coordinator. Depends on what the events are. I know some people who do that. Uh, their work seems to be kind of not sketchy, but they don't really have consistent schedules. The two that I know, in fact, they do it as a part time gig. So part time is probably pretty good if you can put it together.
And the last one we'll talk about is an outside and the last one we will talk about is an outside sales representative. Well, I've been in sales my whole life. And selling, if you're a good salesman and you know your product and you know what you're doing, you can make a living being a good salesman. I'll tell you that, Paul.
Hmm. Yeah. People are always buying, and the human touch is still important. We do a lot of stuff online, but if you can be a good, human salesman, you set yourself way above the rest of the people.
No doubt about that. Now, some of the dying jobs. So let me tell you this little story. There's a little shop called Wealthy here. It's a chain and it's a stir fry place. You pick out your vegetables, you pick out your meats. The person puts it in this little stir fry contraption that spins around while there's fire under it. And it's called Wealthy and it's pretty healthy. Well, Katrina and I went to Wealthy the other day. There was one person in the store, one person behind the counter, and we were kind of waiting for this person behind the counter to say next. They didn't say a word to us. The guy leaving said, "Hey, you got to do this on the kiosk." Paul, there was a woman behind the counter who could not speak one word of English. And I was supposed to order on a kiosk. And the things that I order, like I don't like a lot of oil in it, I have certain things that I like in it. Well, I couldn't put any of that in the kiosk. Paul, if you're a minimum wage worker, if you're a food worker or McDonald's or Burger King or those jobs are going away. And if you notice in McDonald's, they now have those same things. You have to order from the machine. Paul, tell
Yeah.
me about this minimum wage.
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah. The reality is that, some people want a lot of money an hour, 15, 20, $30 an hour. That's going to go away. That's going to machines. And I've seen that. I don't do a lot of McDonald's stuff. I've been to a couple of them, but yeah, the last time I went in with a friend, there's like nobody there, but there were two people there and they were monitoring the machine. Everything was ordered. A couple other places I've been there doing this machine stuff. And you know where it really gets me? Uh, my local grocery store. It's all checkout machine. There's like one person and maybe two instead of like eight or nine. It's one or two. A lot of times it's two. One is doing the cash register and the other one is monitoring people doing the other 12 machines in case they got a problem.
It's amazing. Every time I go in the grocery store, I have to check myself out. So think about all those jobs that are leaving. In the airport, when you check in for a flight, you now check into a kiosk. All those people in the airlines that had those jobs, they're going away. AI
Yes,
is really taking over. If you notice on the telephone, you can now get into a loop where you won't ever be able to speak to a person. I'm telling you, if you're out there and you're looking for something to do, if you're looking for a new way to work or a new profession to be in, STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math, find something that you can do with STEM because that is the way of the future. Don't you agree?
absolutely. Without a doubt. STEM, it's hard science. Hard science is hard. Giving your, I'd say, getting a degree, just giving your opinion, that's just not going to be valuable in the future. You've got to bite the bullet and do the hard stuff. It won't be so hard if you start early. You've got to start early in your basic education. I'm talking kindergarten level up. But you have to start where you are.
That's
Start where
right.
you
I was just about to say that. You need to start now.
are. Right. Whatever now is. So if you're a
You know how
kindergartner, if it's all the first graders watching this, you're probably in good shape. If you're a senior citizen, you can be in good shape too, but you're gonna have to work harder.
you know how long it takes to learn how to play piano really good?
No.
It all depends on when you start.
Okay. Okay. How you
It
get to
all
Carnegie Hall? Practice.
right. All right, everybody out there, thank you so much for supporting our show, listening to our show on Apple Podcasts, watching it on YouTube or Instagram or TikTok. Thank you so much for your support. Thank you for your letters on the frequent flow line. Thank you for really looking after Dr. Paul and myself because we're trying to bring you some good news, and that's important to us. And I was talking about that frequent flow line. It's on our website, wingmanshow.com. That's wingmanshow.com. There's a frequent flow line where you can write us. Also on that website are all of our shows. So if you go to our website, you can see all of the shows that we've ever done. But when I was talking about this frequent flow line, we got a letter this week from a young lady in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And she states, "My brother and I love your show. My brother says that you can blow yourself up with your own bombs. I say you are going too fast. Who is right? And thanks for bringing some good news online," which I really appreciate. Paul and I are really trying to bring that good news online. All right, jet pilot Paul, go ahead and take this one.
Okay, well, to the viewer and their brother, thanks for liking the show. Keep watching. As far as blowing yourself up with your own bombs, I've never heard of that directly. Flying too fast, never heard of that ever happening. I have heard of at least one case where one plane was dropping bombs, actually dropped a bomb on another plane flying in formation, and that did cause a fatality. That's a freak occurrence. But no, you can fly fast. They don't the bombs don't go off by air pressure. They go off after they usually hit something or after a fuse times out and it initiates an explosion. But not while it's hooked up to the airplane. I've never heard of that. Unless you get something really, really bizarre happening. You can go fast.
Well, that's also why you and I flew attack planes and we couldn't go over Mach because we had bombs hanging out
Right.
on the outside of our airplane. Those bombers who go Mach 1, 2, and faster than that, all their bombs are inside, they're internal. But you can blow yourself up by dropping a bomb if you're too low, and that's called a frag pattern. If you
Yes.
there's a certain altitude that you need to not go below if you're dropping certain kind of weapons, and you know that altitude because people have been blown up by their own bombs when they drop them. They're so low that the bomb explodes, and it has hit an airplane before. So
Yeah, in a case like that, I
both of you
agree.
are kind of right.
hmm That can happen. Too low. If you're too low to the ground, or usually from someone else's bombs.
That's
You're
true.
flying through it.
So all of you out there, when you're dropping bombs, be careful, stay above that altitude, and go fast. That's
Yeah, yeah. Remember that next time you go to the grocery store.
that's true. All right. You know what that brings me to? That brings me to Wingman TSA. Under the 11 facts in life, under fact number 6, which is good will overcome evil, avoid these 8 deadly sins. We are on the sin called lust. Lust, sex without love. Lust, sex without love. When I was when I was speaking to kids all over the country, whether it was in college, high school, junior high school, I did say this. A roach can have sex, but it takes a real man to be a father. You need to be very careful with sex because I believe that you give somebody your spirit when you get that intimate with them. And that means you might be giving your spirit to something that you don't want to give it to. Be very, very careful. And like I said, a roach can have sex, but it takes a real man to be a father. Tell me about that one, Paul.
Yeah, absolutely. Raising a child to be an adult, grandchildren, doing other things, that takes effort and that takes time. Sex can be really, really quick and meaningless, and you just don't know. But to actually raise a family, to raise a child, to put the time in and see the benefits to your family and humanity and your community, that is completely, completely, completely different.
And I used to ask the kids all the time, you know why sex feels so good? Because it makes life. If it felt like breaking your leg, nobody would be born.
That's right.
And I said this, and people don't like it, but it's true. Women, girls, young girls, if you don't want to get pregnant, keep your legs closed. And that's just the way it is. All right. How about the gouge, Paul? You know, the gouge is shit you need to know that
Yes.
nobody tells you. Well, I'm going to just give you a quick gouge. If you want to change careers, do something with STEM, science, technology, engineer, and math. All right.
Yes. Yes.
The name of our show is called The Wingman Show. And boy, do we have a wingman for you today. We call it The Wingman Show because we really like to highlight people who look after others. And Dr. Paul has a wingman out of this world for you. What is it, Paul?
Well, Commander Drew, yes, we do have a wingman, and I think this might be our most unusual wingman yet. Commander Drew, do you remember a movie came out in 2006 called Nacho Libre?
Yeah, about a Mexican wrestler or something like that. Yes, I do remember it. With
Yeah,
Jack.
it was with it starred a guy named Jack Black, and kind of a comedy. He plays a Mexican wrestler. I had no idea that that movie was based on a real life situation very similar. Have you ever heard of Lucha Libre?
No, I haven't. But oh,
Okay,
that's
yeah,
the
okay.
circuit. Wait a minute. That's the circuit that the Mexican wrestlers, that's like the WWE in Mexico. Yes.
That's right. Lucha Libre. Very, very popular. Uh, there's a star, I guess we know those in the wrestling world. His name was Rey Mysterio. I don't know if he's still wrestling. He would come in with the mask and he did a lot of acrobatics flying around the ring. Very, very entertaining. Anyway, would you believe that there was a Mexican wrestler that was actually a massive philanthropist? His name is Sergio Gutierrez Benitez. And this is a man, as a child, he started out in a very rough life. He was actually a drug addict. He's a drug addict and a criminal. He was marijuana, cocaine, heroin, everything. He ran with the gang. He was shot, beat up, stabbed. That's the way he lived his life on the street. When he was 20 years old, he was accused of murdering one of the people in his gang. It was found that he had a good alibi and he got off of that by the hair of his
Well,
chinny chin.
what was he doing, Paul?
What was he doing? He was basically a serious gangbanger in Mexico.
No, he was drunk at a bar, passed out when the murder happened. So that's how he got off of it.
Oh, that's correct. That's correct. Yeah. Okay. So it basically couldn't process of elimination. He was eliminated, and this was, I guess, he grew up near Toluca, Mexico. I've flown into Toluca, Mexico, highest elevation airport I've ever been, 8,400 feet high. Anyway, that's not relevant. But anyway, he leaves Toluca, Mexico. He survives that, you know, uh, attempted murder charge, and he gets religion literally, and he wants to become part of the church. He goes to these churches, and they know what he's done, what he's been, and they reject him. He finally finds a place that will take him. He gets into the ministry. He goes to Spain and Italy and studies for a number of years, and comes back, and they assign him like a parish in Veracruz, Mexico, near the Pacific coast. There's something that really is close to his heart. And what he really wants to do is to build an orphanage for a lot of homeless boys or children. I think that they're all boys that I saw, homeless boys around the streets. But it costs a lot of money. So he decided to do what he knew best and was being as a tough guy. So he entered the wrestling circuit secretly. And he was a professional wrestler in the lucha libre circuit, and he went under the name Frey Tormata. Frey Tormata is what he called himself. So during the day, he would do his wrestling, and at night he would be giving mass, Catholic mass. Sometimes he would do the same on the same day. He would wrestle in the mornings and do mass in the afternoon and evenings. He did it secretly for a number of years because he
How
got
did he
paid
do it
attention.
secretly?
Well, because he wore a mask. He wore this
Oh,
colorful mask. It was like, I think it was yellow and orange. One represented the people, the other one, the red, represented the blood. Anyway, he's look at him. He's not the most muscular guy, but he did this from 1977 to 2000, and he built this orphanage for these kids. It's called Frey Tormata Cubs Children's Home. That's what
mhm.
they call it. And since that time, he's graduated. I say graduated, processed about 2,000 young boys who became doctors, lawyers, senators, even a few professional wrestlers. And he had to fight people in the street. One day he started a church somewhere, and these drug addicts and criminals said they didn't want him. They sabotaged his car. So he basically said, "Well, you can stay if you can fight us." And apparently, he fought him. We didn't beat everybody, but he did well enough where they left him alone.
I
He's an
think what
older man
happened,
now.
Paul,
Sorry.
Paul, I think what happened is one guy, it was a gang that didn't want him in that neighborhood. And one of the gang members said, well, come on. And this guy beat the hell out of the gang member. And as he got up, he said, who's next? And I
Yeah,
think when they left him alone.
that's our guy, Sergio Gutierrez Benitez, because he wrestled in Mexico, also in Japan.
That's an amazing story, Paul. That's a great Wingman story. Yes, that movie was made after somebody real. Wow. All right, everybody, anybody who can hear my voice, whatever you think is important, whatever you think is beautiful, and especially whatever makes you happy, may you have that today and forever. I pray for peace.
I pray for peace too, Commander Drew. It was good seeing you today. We appreciate all those who listen, like, and share our message. Please give us a thumbs up. A good comment on YouTube helps the algorithm. Please subscribe. You'll get a notification when we put a new episode out. And we appreciate you.
Thank you once again, Dr. Paul Thompson, my friend. Thank you for your love, your time, and that's something that we won't ever get back. I want to thank all the listeners, too. Thank you so much for doing the show, Dr. Paul. We're jamming.
Well, thank you, Mr. Drew, for inviting me on. Always good to talk to you. And ladies and gentlemen, please remember to like, share, and subscribe to this podcast or any of the podcasts. If you're looking at YouTube, they say smash the like button. Don't smash it. Just press it gently and use as a link to all your friends. You can also look at us on our website, wingmenshow.com, WINGMEN show, SHOW.com, altogether, wingmenshow.com. And we hope to see you in the future. Thanks again, Mr. Drew.
Oh, you're welcome. And we're still floating like butterflies and stinging like bees. Rumble, you badass jet pilots, rumble. May there be peace on earth, and goodwill towards all men and women.